right, thank you everyone for your patience. Hello and welcome to our first event of 2022 for Aside Foundation. For everyone who's not familiar with what Aside Foundation is, Aside Foundation is a non-governmental organization that is devoted to youth development and is a place to create an environment which promotes the development of intellectual capital and unleash the fullest potential of the youth. Jad Ghandour is a Lebanese graphic designer. He's 20 years old and he lives in Beirut. He's studying at the Lebanese American University. And in today's event, Jad will introduce us to his design by focusing on his breathtaking way of work, in which he will show us how he relates illustrations and visual and analog arts, as well as the mix of colors and the creative way of the relation to text. Hello, Jad, and welcome to Aside Foundation. It's a pleasure having you with us today in our event. Can you tell us more about yourself, please?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Uh, I was born in Beirut in 2002, and I lived there all my life. Luckily, to a family that appreciates art and culture, so this allowed me to be exposed to a variety of artwork, styles, and experiences. Traveling from Europe to the Far East, witnessing different walks of life, like that of the secluded monk in the Burmese jungle or the beggar street artists on the streets of Cannes. In combination to these experiences, I also encountered many characters and worlds through video games, movies, and books. Something I started developing a passionate for in 2006 when I was 4 years old.
Thank you, Jad. What made you choose graphic design?
So I was always surrounded by like a collection of luxury books and artworks and introduced to artists such as Joseph Klibanski. I really developed a taste for this luxurious design and the niche for geometry. And I realized in high school that I was one with a very strong creative mind and that I was more talented with creativity and developing visuals than with numbers and algorithms. And throughout my high school years, I grew very passionate about video games and more importantly, how the worlds were designed. So they're intricately tied together and there's winding paths and layering assets. And this fascination with world building actually made me think I was interested in architecture, not graphic. And so I studied it for a year before realizing the beauty of a design that's not tied to reality in terms of structure, practicality, or depth in real life. And so I approach graphic design as something very freeing, as it rarely relies on whether it will stand in reality. And it's a very free form of communication that is open to interpretation in the eyes of the viewers.
Thank you, Jad. And how would you describe your approach to design in general?
So I think of graphic design as a form of expression and communication that, due to it being part of the creative field and not that of the informative one, the message doesn't always have to reach everyone. So it's similar to how an artist can put his whole heart and soul into a painting that no one will understand. Uh, the audience of a graphic designer doesn't always have to be the general public. And that's something very freeing because you can design with a certain set of people in mind. Additionally, design in general is about experimentation and working with different materials, concepts, and inspirations to create something new and invigorating. However, I do differentiate between design and art because art for me is something that can be coincidental or stumbled upon, and it relies on a visual effect more than having an idea or concept behind it. Design to me, on the other hand, is something that is studied. No matter how chaotic it can seem, design always has this element of thought and process behind it.
Thank you so much, Jad, for your input. And Since you have your own special way of design, what do you think makes you stand out from other designers?
I think on one side, I stand out from other designers just due to my strong capabilities of coming up with concepts and looking at my designs in a more holistic way. So I look at um, the entire experience of how the viewer or user would interact with something rather than just the pop of a color or the strength of a typeface. Um, I think a lot about the experience in general. Additionally, being from Beirut, the city has two sides. On one side, you're in the middle of politics, religion, and conflict, and at the same time, you're in the middle of joy, activity, and youth. And it's a large contributor and inspiration for my work. Looking at the city and the differences and styles on those of the street, which blend between tradition, nostalgia, and gentrification. You have like the street of Jemaise and Marim Khail. Right at the beginning, you have these old traditional buildings that are still untouched and preserved. And this resembles tradition. You walk forward a bit and you reach the same buildings, but they've been refurbished and renovated and they've been converted into a new space. You walk forward to the end of the street and you're surrounded by buildings and spaces that are completely modernized and sleek and metallic. And I don't think you could find this in another city.
Thank you so much, Jad, for that. And because you walked us through all of that, and because we know like you have your own a special way of thinking, and you're so creative, what do you think has been the biggest single influence on your way of thinking?
Um, my biggest single influence on my way of thinking, very cliche of me, it's actually my father. He has such a very unique approach to life, that's very comme vous voulez, which means as you wish. And this always keeps him very calm and collected and open to thought, which is something that's really important, especially as a designer. You're always going to face critics and different opinions and different competitors. And so to be open to seeing what is new or hearing something new, it's very refreshing. Additionally, this mindset teaches you to go with whatever life throws in your direction. So this is how you get to take in more experiences, which further develops who you are.
Thank you so much, Jad. And um, what are you passionate about besides your work that is in design?
Uh, Other than design, I don't describe myself as a very political person, but due to my environment, it always gravitates around me. You walk around the street, there's all the posters, the flags, the different uniforms of the different movements, conversations with people, the day-to-day conversations revolve around that. Uh, and also, on a personal level, I'm very into technology, its developments in the world around us. And I've been recently reading a lot about the growth of AI intelligence and its introduction to the art world. Because nowadays you can have entire installations based off of a program running a single command, and it's all procedurally generated, which means that it's not predicted.
Thank you so
Uh,
much, Jad.
Lastly, I have a kind of condition called synesthesia, which in my mind, my senses are tied together. So I associate visuals with sounds, with touch, and concepts. So, in simpler terms, I can see music. And this is something that really opens my creative mind and allows me to come up with different visual effects. And as a result of that, I'm always listening to music and something that's usually experimental and not what you would hear on the radio.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting and unique. Thank you so much, Jad, for sharing. And um, last but not least, what's the best piece of advice you have heard and repeat to others, especially especially that now a lot of people might be interested in design, but like they might be very confused on which path to take. And we know in design there's a lot of paths. So what is your advice to people? What can you give us?
Yes, so I have two main pieces of advice. One is more about a growth mindset, and it is that you are the combination of the five people closest to you, the last five movies you've watched, and the last five books you've read. So as a result, you should always look to surround yourself with quality people and always raise your standards and look to raise that bar to get the most out of yourself and to push your potential. At the same time, on another professional note, and this is something that I always have to remind myself, sometimes you should take it easy. So sometimes the simpler path is the most effective one. And if you are ever stuck on a small detail, share your work with a stranger and see how you are the one that's holding yourself back.
Thank you so much, Jad. Um, can you walk us through your portfolio and show us um, your work that you have been working on since you started with the design?
Yes, of course.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so this is my first branding project. It's called Bolds, which stands for Bring On Lasting Designs. This was a purely conceptual project that I worked on in university, and it's something about fighting fast fashion. This for me was something really important. It was my first experience building a brand from the ground up. And here I really got to experience or explore my niche for geometry within the patterns and the colors that I worked with. And another thing about this brand is that it was designed to grow and evolve with time. So it was something very unique as a concept to work with.
Can you tell us more about like how does it like what is the main concept of it? What do you mean by that?
Yes. So basically, you had this. Nowadays, we're so surrounded by fast fashion, brands like Zara, Shein, which have been continuously posting product and they're generating mass amounts of waste. And on the other side of the style world, you have people that are really into thrifting and finding these pieces that were so well designed and the quality is so well taken care of. And and they're still stylish, these pieces. And those are what I call lasting designs. So the Bolds project was relying around fashion shows based off of 60s, 70s, 80s fashion. And so I had to develop these three different themes through buttons and stationery that would be passed out to the public. And it had to have this kind of edgy feel, like an attack on the city, uh, giving a brand voice.
Oh wow, that's so interesting. Thank you so much, Jad. I will be moving to the next work of yours. And I love this so much, especially that I studied political science. So everything related to all of that is so interesting to me.
Yes. So this was a submission I made for a competition. You have the Arab International Women's Forum. On the top left is their old logo, and it features multiple different symbols, such as like the moon for the region, the globe in front of it, and the human behind them all. And I wanted to take that and move away from this generalization of like, okay, global Arab and women, and move forward with kind of the character of this organization, which is about growth and encouragement and this sisterhood, between mentor and mentee. And so I created this logo, which is based off of a pattern of handshakes and the symbol of kind of creating this connection between women.
And you were the one who also you said the top left one was the old one, right? So what made you choose
Yes.
these two colors like to symbolize this logo?
So the I chose the colors, the dark purple and the red first because they're very strong colors. I find purple is rooted in royalty, whereas red is rooted in power. And I feel like these are certain characteristics that we need to kind of enforce around these environments with women and power and work.
Thank you so much, Jad. Can you tell us more about Ignite?
Yes, so Ignite is a project that I'm actually working on right now. It's the branding for the yearly LAU fashion show in collaboration with designer Eli Saab. So I am working on basically all of the branding, all of the visuals and animations for it. And this project was it's one of my favorites to work on. First, it's super sleek for me, and it features custom typography, movement of background, and it's been something that I've dreamed of working on. Additionally, like I love the colors. I love the colors. I feel like they give a lot of life and luxury to the situation.
And you were the one who chose the burn all you know fashion will be born in you.
Yes, I had come up with this slogan.
Yeah, this
Basically, so we were defining Ignite, and we didn't want it to just be like fire or phoenix. We wanted it to be something new. And recently, fashion is changing. Science is being more included with the 3D printing, biology, and development of material. So it's like you're setting fire to the old fashion and bringing life into the new one.
okay, that's so interesting. And is the event happening soon?
Yes, it's actually happening on the 23rd of this month.
Oh, okay. Good luck. I wish you all the
Thank you.
best. You're
Thank you.
welcome. All right. And what can you tell us about this campaign?
Yes, so this was part of another submission for Campaign Middle East. This would be for an edition based off of radio and culture. So the magazine would be all about the different radio stations in the region. And because they are based in the UAE, that's where I kind of shifted focus. The cover on the left features a color coding of all the radio stations in the region, as well as the languages that they speak. And I had come up with the tagline, Tune into Culture. Uh, so I really looked at kind of creating an infographic within the title that you could look at to analyze and find the station to listen to. The cover on the right, however, is something that I kind of developed my illustrative side to. Um, Listening to the radio, there are different stations for everything. When it comes to what you listen to, you can listen to music, you can listen to a podcast, you can have a workout, education, everything. So taking these, I tried to come up with these neon style one-line illustrations of characters doing these actions.
I noticed you use a lot of neon colors. Is there something like specific of why do you use these colors or no?
I think that they just really stand out a lot on a vibrant background and that they beat the sense, but in print, traditionally print doesn't feature neon. So nowadays we're able to manipulate the way technology reads the colors we work with and using different printing methods to create these more vibrant schemes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jad. And I really liked this. So if you can tell us about like using colors specifically in this magazine, like what can you tell us about that?
Yes, so this was part of a project analyzing the different colors in very iconic films. So we were looking at like Sin City, Dick Tracy, The Godfather, and I really looked to incorporate different image treatments. So the way that text overlays with characters, the different weights and so different boldness and thicknesses of text, and the way that we highlight information. So for example, on the top left, the Sin City page, you can see it's very traditionally divided, but at the same time, I kind of blended the image into the background and incorporated a quote to highlight text. Whereas the Dick Tracy page, I kind of created more of a bleed, and I let the yellow background merge with text to kind of highlight what is important.
Okay, so using the color yellow was only to highlight what is important in this part of this magazine, or it was like a way of showing the picture that is already there?
Yeah, so every single page had a specific color in mind related to the film. So if you've seen Dick Tracy, the color yellow is the main character's color. But instead of putting the image traditionally, I flipped it for the actual characters to be black and white and the background to be yellow. And I blended the yellow background over text to highlight information.
Okay, thank you so much, Jad. I really
Uh,
like the idea of this story. So if you can tell us and walk us more into it.
yes, so from here on, we're going to move on to a different side of me, which is my more illustrative side. Because being passionate about video games, I'm really into and aspiring to work as a concept artist. And so as a result, that involves drawing characters and environments and coming up with different poses and ways to represent things. So this project was based off of an Indian folktale called The Elephant Prince. And it features many Hindu gods and goddesses. I wanted to take this story and incorporate elements of other media that I look at, so video games and different mythologies, as well as technology. So I created something that is a bit darker in terms of theme, while still being able to tell the story in a very beautiful way. And if you look at the characters at the top on the left page, each character is kind of given their own personality and their own expression with color.
Okay, so the colors that you chose have a way of like defining their own personality, right?
Yes, definitely.
All right, thank you, Jad. And can you tell us more about this specific work that you have done?
Yes. So this is closer to what I would actually wanted to work as a concept artist. And here I'm designing an environment as well as some props. The theme of this project was 80s retro horror that's based in a school, high school. So I had to look at many different inspirations and go through all these different mood boards and different precedents, looking at high schools in the 80s and different trends, style, uh, in order to create this environment. So this bathroom, for example, it has this atmospheric green lighting that's very reminiscent of these 80s slasher horror film. And I had to even look at different types of lighting, different material, uh, which bled into my prop design. The pink lunchbox and the leather wallet, and all of these were my different experimentations with the mediums.
Okay, thank you so much, Jad. I will be moving into this. I remember when we were discussing this, you were telling me about how you worked on the colors and how you put a lot of images to come with this like very breathtaking work. So can you walk us through this and tell us about it more?
Yeah, so these are a series of style frames for a music video. And for this project, I wanted to experiment a bit. So I worked with combining analog work with digital work. Analog work basically means uh, something that you work with physically in the real world, like paint, ink with a brush on paper. And so I was taking different pieces of paper, cutting them together, spray painting, drying them out, even like submerging them underwater to kind of distort the paint stains. And then afterwards, I would scan them and move them onto like Photoshop or Procreate, and I would match them, layer them, and isolate different parts of the illustrations to create this effect.
All right. Does anyone have any question? If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask Jad in the chat, and we will be walking through them in the question and answer period. Okay. Um, I love the idea of this, Jad. So can you tell us about like what inspired you? Like tell us about the story that you already told me, so people can know how did you design this logo.
Yeah, so this was actually one of the first things I designed, and it kind of helped me be sure of myself as a graphic designer or find like a passion in graphic. Um, Breitling is a brand of luxury watches, and they have two different series: the Ariel and for pilots, and the Nautical for sailors. And their logo at the time was the Breitling B, which is in cursive, with two wings on the side and an anchor on the bottom. And so I wanted to challenge myself with this brand. And I had the concept of separating the brand to create one based on the nautical aspect and one based on the aerial. So the logo on the left is based on off of a sailor's watch. And I had incorporated the concept of the rope, which is like the basic sailor's knot, and it's arranged in the way that creates the letter B. While the logo on the right is about the aerial series, and it takes a much more different approach and is more simple and kind of has a more luxurious feel. Additionally, the Breitling font, the typography, was something that I had worked on by hand. It was sketched on my geometry notebook in class, and it was one of my first experiences working with type.
I personally like the one on the left because I feel like it has a lot of details. The one like that's my personal opinion. What do you guys think? If you can put them in the chat. And thank you so much, Jad, for actually sharing this amazing work with us. We're so happy to have you with us.
Thank you. I think it's important to share your early works even as like the beginning of your journey as a designer, showing how you improve, because you go around and you open Pinterest and Instagram and you look at different people's portfolios and you just feel overwhelmed or that you're not good enough. And everyone has their own start and they all need a different, everyone needs to develop their taste. And the only way to do so is by trying.
Exactly. They always say trial and error. So that's like the way to actually know more about your work and your passion and everything. Um, we will be moving to this amazing logo about Lebanon and then the work on the right too. So if you can tell us more about it, please.
Yeah. So the logo on the left, it means Lil Watan, for the country, and it was a logo that I had designed for an NGO at the time. In this logo, I kind of look to combine the typographic treatment to create a visual effect of the flag, and it can show how even the simplest form of just bending the word can create something super new and fresh and visually appealing and full of meaning. Uh, Whereas the work on the right, Over Earth, it was something very experimental for me. If you look at the typography at the bottom, it's actually taken from my Breitling, and I had improved upon it and kind of fixed what needed fixing. And the time frame between the Breitling logo and the Over Earth design was about a year and a half, and you can just see how much has changed. And I even kind of experienced with this, experimented with the color blocking when creating like the baby on in space.
You just mentioned color blocking. Can you tell us more about color blocking? Like some people don't know about design a lot, so if you can walk us, what is that?
Yeah,
So we can, yeah.
color blocking is basically when working in art, it's something that you would see, for example, in like comic books or different types of cartoons where different shades are shown in shapes and not blended together. You know, like if you look at a painting, someone will blend the shapes so that it's very smooth, whereas color blocking uses shapes to cast shadows.
Okay.
So you could see it, for example, the difference between the left side of the baby or like on its arm, the left and the right, there's like this darker shadow. This is color blocking. And you can also use it when planning a large scale artwork that you eventually plan on detailing. You can color block it so that you can have a sense of what you're working on.
Thank you so much, Jad. I just wanted to tell everyone that this typography that you see, it's created by Jad. So he created it personally. Like it's not found anywhere. So he was the one who created this from his Breitling design and then put it in this amazing um, work. Um, Before moving into the other part, Jad, I would like to ask you, what are your goals, especially that you're coming from a country that is passing through a lot of economic crisis and like a lot of inflation, and there's no job opportunities. For example, I'm Lebanese and I had to travel to a different country. I'm in the US right now just because I don't have the opportunity in my country. So what are your goals, and what is like your main dream?
Yeah, so I hope to make it in the gaming world, which unfortunately I feel means I'm gonna have to leave the country. I tried so long to stay in Lebanon, and here I am pursuing my bachelor's in Lebanon. But as you said, like job opportunities are dwindling and opportunities are dwindling. Inflation doesn't help. But I always think that it's important to look towards the positive side and to try and find motivation from the situations that you're in or inspiration from the situations that you're in. And I think that my next goal, honestly, is just to finish my education and maybe learn a few new programs so that when I apply for my master's, I can go on steady feet with a strong portfolio. And most importantly, to not forget where I came from and what I had. Uh, Being from places like Lebanon that have this different style of life and different ways that events unfold is something very unique and very touching, and it's something that you should always pay homage to in your work or the way that you develop a concept.
I agree. Thank you so much, Jad, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And we will be moving into a different part. I know, Jad, you have a lot of friends that have different perspectives or different designs, and you have shared some designs with me, and I was like actually very shocked because this work was amazing, especially that everyone has their own way of design. You have your niches geometric. There's a lot of other from your peers that have different perspectives. So if you can like show us your friends' work. I know there's some of them are watching us. So hi guys, and your work is amazing. So I will be moving to the first one, which is by Tamara Fahes. So if you can tell us more about her work and your opinions.
Yeah, so Tamara, for me, she's very inspirational. Uh, Tamara loves to work with Arabic typography much more than I do because she's very inspired by like the Iranian masters of graphic design. And she looks at combining tradition with modernity. And this you can see looking at her posters. So one of them features like these beautiful motifs with vegetation and kind of growth, and so you can see how she has this style in both posters.
Yes.
Another thing is that Tamara works with a lot of square kufi, which is a type of script in Arabic, almost like a font, and it's something that is very geometric. She's trying and she has noticed that and noticed how technology is incorporated into design these days. And so she has come up with the idea of the pixel and how the pixel could become the new form of square kufi, which you can see in the poster on the right.
Okay, wow, that's so interesting.
Uh, Before you move on, I also want to say Tamara, she's very into politics and matters in the region. And so both of her posters are about that. The poster on the left, it says, دماؤنا حرة ونفوسنا حرة, which means our blood is free and we are free. Um, and just if you look at the typography and how, even though the same words are used twice, حرة and حرة, she doesn't represent them the same way. And the way she incorporates the smaller ligatures of the Arabic language is something very interesting to me. And the poster on the right says على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة, which means on this on this land, life is deserved. And I love her use of colors even to create something that's so soft but so powerful in meaning. And this totally relates back to what I say about design and how it's studied to have a meaning and an effect.
That's true. I personally found this very interesting because I care about the Arabic language, especially in this generation. We all know that we like, because of technology and stuff, like people are drifting away from their own culture. And a lot of people don't even know how to speak or write Arabic. So having this in design is very interesting for me. And I also like the colors. What do you guys think? If you can share also in the chat. And thank you so much, Tamara, for this and for being with us. Um, Also, there is Tala's work. Um, I like her work. So if you can tell us more about like what does Tala work on and your opinion as well.
Yes, so Tala shared with me her work on a magazine spread called Death or Sex. And this was about the color black and the different stereotypes it has. So, you know, black is usually either associated with mourning or it's also associated with uh, sensuality. And one thing about Tala is that she really does work with analog styles more. So, like the typography of Death or Sex, the Underworld, and the Land of Evil Spirits is something that she developed by hand. And she also works with this different type of edgy typography and photography, which is something that is inspired by what she sees in the underground clubbing scenes around her. You know, because
Oh,
you have all
wow.
these people now, grunge with the spikes and the dark makeup, and so Tala takes a lot of inspiration from that around her, and it's something that's nice to see because people think that from our regions you wouldn't see something like that.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, especially in our region in Lebanon. Um,
Yes.
I really like that. So the emails are being shared. If anyone had any questions for the designers, you can feel free to reach out to them. Um, and we will be moving to Melanie's work, which is so interesting because Melanie also uses neon colors as well. So if you can tell us more about it, Jad.
Y- Yeah, so similar to how I had my Bolts project, Melanie had created her project called Indie Camion. Camion is an Arabic word for truck, so it's like those big transport trucks that would either carry like livestock, produce, or anything like that. And usually these trucks have phrases on them painted in a very Arabesque design. And so what Melanie had did is that she had come up with the concept of a music festival, and she took this typography from the trucks and she combined it with the flair and pop of the colors of Beirut nightlife, so kind of incorporating the youth with the traditional art form of typography.
It's so cute. I really like like how they also like put Beirut and the Raushe rock as well as Sur, like it's like representing every single place in Lebanon.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Also, Melanie's email is found. Finally, we will be having Karian's Arabic poster, which is so nice. And our founder is actually one of the biggest fans of Fairuz, Mohamed Asaid. He's with us, so he will love this work.
Yeah, we should send it to him as a gift for today. Um, so this is an Arabic poster made of, there's the Fairuz song, بكتب اسمك يا حبيبي, which means I'll write your name, my love. And so Karine really worked with like taking this, the meaning from the word and incorporating it into the poster. And that's why, so in this style, she has them overlapping, and it's like someone saying the words over and over again, which is what you would do when you're in love with someone. So Karine really took like the emotional aspect to incorporate it into the visual. And that's why there's no like overwhelming graphic or color coming in from the side. It's really about this meaning within the text and the way that she approached the text.
Okay, that's very interesting. I know Karine is with us, I guess. I've seen their name. So if they can tell us like why did they choose the color this blue, like especially this blue, or if you know, or it was just like just to put it on the poster.
Knowing Karine is a very, very colorful person.
Okay.
The word neutral does not exist in her wardrobe, and she puts always puts her personality into her design.
Yeah.
And so to balance the meaning of the song with the black background, she added this beautiful turquoise for a pop within the rest of the words. And it kind of establishes a different type of hierarchy and showing how uh, showing the true meaning of the song.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you, Karine and Jad. Um, we're now done with our event, so we will be going to open the floor for questions for Jad and his friends that are actually with us. So if anyone has any question, you can type them in the chat so we can be able to answer them. So thank you so much, Jad, for all the input that you gave us and all the knowledge. I'm sure everyone was very astonished with your work and the way of thinking that you have. And again, it's so happy to have you. So we will be waiting on questions now. So if anyone has any kind of question about design, about anything, feel free to put it in the chat, please. Does anyone have any questions? You can put it in the chat. It's on the bottom, the bubble. Hanin says amazing designs and great talents.
Thank you
Hanin is
so much.
one. Hanin is one of the event planners that is doing an internship with the Site Foundation as well, and we will be having a lot of events very soon. You have a question from Zach. They're my best friend. They ask you if there's any future goals related to your career very soon.
Yeah, so as of right now, I do know where I want to end up, which is in the gaming world. But I also still want to kind of establish myself as a designer and build my portfolio. And so I'm also working on different branding projects as well as illustration, animation. I'm actually working right now on learning another 3D animation software because there are so many. Um, and I want to experiment with different types of coding and programming, incorporating these to create something interactive.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Haya says, thank you, Jad. And Patricia says, how do you deal with art blocks?
So Patricia's asking, how do I deal with art blocks? So an art block is always something that I will run into from time to time, and it's very difficult to overcome. And it's usually brought on by stress, and it's always brought on by the feeling that I need to design. And that's where one of my approaches, or one of the advices that I shared earlier, which is take it easy. And sometimes uh, either dropping something or picking up something new will help breathe fresh life into your creative mind. You know, if I'm feeling like I'm blocked, I will usually start something new, and getting that boost from a new idea or activity pushes me out of it.
That's so interesting, Jad. Thank you for sharing. We have Jay. They said this was amazing. Keep it up, and you'll surely achieve your goals. Then Leon says everyone's design is dashing. Love them all. Lewis Simrani says, Jad, beautiful work. What's your favorite video game? That's what I wanted to ask, by the way.
Okay, I'm gonna type it in the chat. It's called Bloodborne. Um, so this game came out in 2014 or 2015, and it's based off of Gothic. This also relates to the question Zach is asking me now. It relates a lot to Gothic and Victorian themes. So if you know, for example, like Edgar Allan Poe, like the poetry, the Romance era and literature, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, um, all of these. Um, so Bloodborne is a amalgamation of all of these things, and Bloodborne was actually one of the games that tricked me into thinking I want to be an architect, because the way the levels were
Oh,
designed were so beautiful, and the props were so detailed, and there were so many different visual effects.
that's so nice. Tanya says amazing work. And then Habib says, how do you think you can leave your mark on Lebanese graphic design, especially like Lebanese graphic design?
Yeah, I think I leave my mark on as a Lebanese graphic designer by not being afraid to explore something new. I feel like when looking at design, you always have people that are kind of limited by wanting to go back to tradition and not being able to push it. And I feel because I want to go into the video gaming world, uh, I've I've never seen it yet. Cultural influences from like Lebanon or Beirut being pushed into this realm of design, such as like with levels, characters, props, environments. And I feel like that's where I will be able to leave an impact.
That's very interesting. Thank you, Jad. We have a question from Ralph. Since we're talking about video games, do you have any professional commentary on the marvelous work done by Valve on Half-Life 2?
Yeah, I love Half-Life 2. Like I look at the level designs a lot. There's different textures, the way that they are layered, and even like the way that they highlight different characters. So for example, like the Half-Life Alex with the blue eyes, and you have the villains with their signet, like with the blazers and the yellow on the main characters. There's so much symbolism and color scheming and color coding within uh, these aspects of design, and I think that it's something super important to look at and review. If you look behind me, I actually have a series of like concept art books on video games that I always look at to see how real studios, famous studios, uh, incorporate these elements when coming up with characters and environments.
That's so interesting. Thank you so much, Jad. Another question by Hanien is, in your opinion, what is the future of design in regards to social media?
I think that as of now, social media and design interact with each other, but they are not the same. Social media now is used as a platform to promote and to share. Whereas I feel like in the future, a designer will be able to come up with their own form of social media that is completely designed and meant to be used. So it's like having a website for your designs, and not just like as a portfolio to share, but as a way that you can interact.
Okay. Another question by Zach is, what masters are you thinking about doing in the future after your BA?
I'm thinking of doing a master's in video game design or level design. I'm not really into coding, but I feel like it's something that is really important to learn. It's the new language.
It is. That's very interesting. Thank you, Jad. And Hanin says interesting too to your answer to their question. Any other questions by anyone? Oh, Jad says like thank you and for your presentation. And Jay says, as a junior graphic designer, what advice would you give me for starting freelancing?
I think, first of all, don't sell yourself short. Find confidence in your work. This is something I regret. A few years ago, I was like this more inexperienced designer, and I used to feel super insecure about my work and feeling like I wouldn't be able to get any job. Uh, you need to take pride in the skills that you have, and also when it comes to finding work, be able to stand your ground and to know your value and to know your skills.
Thank you so much, Jad. Karim Philippe Lash, she says, great presentation. Um, and Zach says, thank you for the event. I really enjoyed watching all your fabulous work and amazing advice. Thank you, by Jay. Before ending this presentation and this amazing webinar by our amazing guest Jad, we'd like to say Jad's email is already on the picture shared on the screen, and their friend's email were shared as well in the chat. And I will be sharing my own personal email just in case anyone um, has any event they would like to see. You can send us an email because we're working on our events for 2022. And you can also follow us on Instagram, as well as you can always check our website. I will be sharing this website. We are based in Washington, DC. And um, I would like to end this webinar. Thank you so much, Jad, for being an amazing speaker. It was a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you. And for everyone in Lebanon, feel free to reach out to Jad for whatever advice you would like. And hopefully, we will be able to meet very soon in Lebanon. And thank you for this amazing input as well as your work. And have a great day, everyone, or night, wherever you are. Thank you, Jad. Is there anything else, Jad, you would like to say before we end this webinar?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for hosting me today.
You're welcome. We will stay in contact with Aside Foundation as well. And have a great night. Take care, okay? Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye.